because this panel has something of a serious overtone to it. It's not really a panel, it's just Uncle Kagi making noise. It really ain't going to last too long, because they asked me to do it, and then I think about what I'm going to say, and I think, okay, I got like 2 minutes material. After that, I guess we play pinochle or something. Or talk about bone dolls. Real world furries. That's the name of this presentation, if you can call it that. I guess we can make a discussion. Real world furries. Okay. One of the things we all share, common trait of everybody in this room. My God, I'm seeing double again. There's 2 seats right up here, ladies. I'm glad they got different numbers on it. That's amazing. We all share the common trait, and that is our fascination with anthropomorphic animals. This is the only group in the world I don't have to explain what that means to. We invented it. In our dreams, in our imaginations, there are creatures that walk and talk like us. They have fur, they have muzzles, they have triangular ears atop of their heads. They can see in the dark, they can hear, they can sense things. They are our ideal. Science is progressing at a breakneck speed, although there have been some brakes put on it with the current political environment, but let's not get into that. We are at a point where we are starting to learn the secrets of the human genome. We are at the point where we can actually begin to spot edit that genome. It's been baby steps. It's been faltering, hesitant little gropings in the dark. But we have learned that a certain genetic mutation at this point in that long strand of spaghetti that is our DNA causes this bad thing. And through very, very careful treatment, we can go in to that bad spot and we can patch it. We can get rid of that mutation. This is called gene therapy. And now the gene, that long strand of spaghetti, will no longer start making bad stuff. It'll start making the stuff it's supposed to. Were I a little less inebriate, I could give you some examples. But right now, all I can think of is how we have genetically engineered grapes to be sweeter, thank God. We are not so far away from the day that we can go in to the human gene and say, okay, this developing life form is destined to have brown eyes. We can change that. We can make blue eyes. This individual is destined to be very short. We can change that. And if we can do that, we can do a lot of other things. In our imaginations, in the stories we write, in the artwork we make, the day has come where we can actually create a fur in real life. And this is something that science has wrestled with since the very, very day that Uknok discovered fire in the R&D department of Neanderthal University. Uknok was the first to ask the question. We can do it, but should we? Because Uknok realized, I can use this so-called fire that I've invented. The name caught on. He was very pleased with They initially started calling it Oopnock, but that just sounded funny. He proposed fire. This fire that Oopnock had invented could be used to warm a family on a cold night. It could be used to make food more palatable, more digestible. But it also could be used to turn your neighbor into a cinder. We can do it, should we? I've been in debates. I'm not really good with debates because I don't like people disagreeing with me. I tend to hit them with things. Frozen bottles of wine. We would all love to see science create a furry. Maybe you will, not me. And while I am alive, while there is breath in my body, I will prevent it from happening. It will not happen while I am alive. Shall I tell you why?
Sure.
Lots and lots of reasons. Any questions? No. Let's start with the most obvious. We have no actual examples in the room right now. But we live in a society today where we are all saying, oh boy, if a 6 foot tall black furred wolf walked in, we would be enthralled with him and we would accept him into our society. You think so? If a gentleman were to walk in with skin that's darker than yours, or with eyes that are a different shape than yours, there is a tendency in our society to say, now, wait a minute, that's too weird. We don't want that around. And don't deny it. Just the other day, oh my God, this made news, and thank God it made news because it should. A woman in New York was in a store, and a little African-American boy who had a backpack on turned around and his backpack bumped into the lady. She called 911 and said he had sexually assaulted her. Would she have done that if the little boy had been white? We can speculate, but probably not. We cannot tolerate one another if the hue of our skin is different. If this person has a few extra pigment cells than I do. You cannot tell me that if you now introduce a being into the society who is not even human, and they're still a living Catholic on the face of the planet, that this being is not going to suffer intense discrimination. So you are going to bring forth into the world something that you are deliberately going to give the intellect to know that it is a monster. It's a wonderful story you should read, Mary Bryce Shelley. Frankenstein, or the modern Prometheus. That was not a horror story, that was a cautionary tale as to what happens when you create something and then don't nurture it. Why are you going to create this creature? Because you can. I can masturbate. I'm not going to do it right now. Unless there's a significant donation to charity, which... Okay, I'll make the donation then. Now, why are you going to genetically engineer this creature? What are you looking for? Are you looking for a pet? Are you looking for a servant? Are you looking for a military weapon? Whatever answer you're going to give me is going to be selfish in some way, and I am going to call you a reprehensible beast. Why would you do this? People who would not consider the idea of buying a child on the streets of Thailand to use it as a sex object would say, oh gee, let's make furries. Yeah, there's a little laughter out there, but it was nervous laughter, wasn't it? Because we must admit who and what we are. We are human beings. We are one of the most imperfect, immature, poorly developed species that has ever had the hubris to call itself civilized.
I'm not listening to this crap.
I'm going to let that soak in. There's been lots of furry stories written. I'm a writer myself, and I do lectures about writing. And one of the things that I tell people is, if your character is going to be a furry, there should be some reason for it to be a furry. And for God's sake, please, don't make your character a furry because it was genetically engineered to be a weapon of war. It's been done to death. I have only actually read one story. One story. And somebody helped me, my poor addled brain. It was either Todd Sutherland or Will Sanborn. Someone's going to have to correct me. One furry story that was written that had an actual good, if you can use that word, reason for a furry creature to be genetically engineered. And that story was called Wings. Pretty sure it was Todd Sutherland. A genetically engineered canine created for the purpose of serving as a companion animal to a blind human being. Okay, I'm going to take a step back from that. You're creating a seeing eye dog that can communicate verbally with its, I'd like to use the word employer. You can tell him, hey, wait, the light's red. You can go to the supermarket with him and say, that's a 10, you need a 20. Okay, that worked. That story, by the way, Wings, somebody write that down and look it up. You want to read that story, have a box of tissues handy. You'll need it. There's another reason why I will not stand by and allow you to dick with the human genome to try to create a monster. And that's because I want you to take it from a scientist. It doesn't always work the first time. In fact, it never works the first time. There's a saying in science, if it works the first time, you screwed something up. And it's true. If it works the first time, we stop and we start looking at our calculations, there's something wrong. You're going to start creating a life form. How many are you going to go through that aren't going to be viable before you get it right? And what are you going to do when you create one that's not viable, that is begging you to spare its life? You really want to do this? I'll fight you. Seriously. That is unconscionable. It is reprehensible. Somebody give me a thesaurus. There's all sorts of great words I could use here. That is evil. And as I said at the beginning, I really don't have a lot of material. That's my position. If you'd like to debate me, I want to give you a caution. I'm full of alcohol, and I'm very, very emotional about this. Speaking of stories that you do want to have tissues available for, that scenario I just described is laid out in a story called More Than Just a Failure. That one I'm almost certain was Will Sanborn. You look up More Than Just a Failure on the internet. It's a short story. Read it, and then you will understand my position. Now, it's one thing to have an experiment fail. As a chemist, thank God, I've never had an experiment say, please don't let me die, before I flushed it down the drain. Any questions? Didn't think so. Yes!
There's, if we're talking about possible future science here, there's more than one way to get something that we would recognize as a fur to exist. And I've met a person that did something kind of like this, essentially just cosmetic.
Was it stalking cat?
Yes.
Continue. How did I know?
Oh, yeah.
Go on.
So, I mean, you're specifically talking about creating a new species. Okay, that's well and good, but adults making cosmetic choices is another way to get the end goal of something that we in this room would recognize as a furry existing to exist. So, I mean, if we're talking about real-world furries, do we have to broaden the definition?
We can. We can. And you actually raise an excellent point, and I thank you for it. Has anybody here not known what we mean when I say stalking cat? A couple of them. It's something that's old news now, but you can find it. He was known internationally as the Tiger Guy.
Oh, okay.
His real name was Dennis Cabin. He was a friend of mine, and he was the sweetest, gentlest, most golden soul you could ever have met. Dennis admired the tiger to the extent that he wanted to be the tiger. Now, this is not a neurosis. This is not a mental illness. This was his desire. This was his self-image, and he decided to act on it. He, at first, tattooed stripes on his body. He then had his facial features surgically altered to place a cleft in his lip and to inject silicone to form essentially a muzzle. Actually pretty good. He had metal implants in his cheek that he could screw nylon whiskers into. The effect was, he had his ears cropped to a more tiger-shaped ear. I don't know if you knew this about Dennis or not, but no surgeon was willing to do this. They considered it mutilation. All of these modifications Dennis had done at body artist parlors, people who do piercings. Because these people are not licensed medical practitioners, they're not allowed to use anesthesia. Dennis had all of these modifications done without the benefit of anesthesia. It must have been agonizing. But it was something that he wanted badly enough. And people had different opinions, but for God's sake, if somebody wants something that badly, I'll let them have it. It meant that much to him. So he achieved international fame as the Tiger Guy. There were some downsides, though. It made it a little difficult going to a job interview. Because you think that if a black person or an Indian person or a woman walks into a job interview and is concerned because the interviewer might immediately say, oh, yeah. Dennis had some difficulties in his life. Do you know what happened?
I know he died, I don't remember exactly.
Dennis took his own life.
Oh.
I don't know why. He didn't talk to me before. I can speculate, but it would be irresponsible of me to do so. You know, I would like to say he found the happiness that he had been looking for, but apparently he didn't. So, yes, that's my take on that. If you want to do it, and it will make you happy, by all means. But make sure you know what you're getting into. I do wish he talked to me, left a note, something like that. So we'll never know. Next question. Yes?
What if, let's say, you allow evolution to take its course?
That's a lot.
You allow evolution to take its course, we're done for. I seriously believe that. Okay, you allow evolution to take its course. Very, very good. It's a great mental exercise. Where are we headed? I don't know. Societal norms are changing. Our own biologies are changing. Our environment is changing much more rapidly than we ever thought it would. If we allow evolution to take its course, there is no morality to that. That is just nature. Will we develop fur and fangs and claws? That'd be cool if we did. I won't be around for it. Exactly. Neither will you. Will the species even be around? Kids are young. Must be great to be young. I grew up in the 60s, in the 70s. Back then, we had a pretty good idea that we wouldn't live to see our 50th birthdays. That's how we felt. Kindergarten, siren would go off. We'd run out in the hall. We all knew that we were screwed. We knew we weren't going to survive. We were children. We knew we weren't going to survive. But it's what we did. That got real dark real quick. Sorry. I was going to make a point. I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah, we're screwed. That's what I meant to say. I hope to God you guys never have to go through that. It wasn't fun growing up in that era. I mean, yeah, we had the Beatles and the Beach Boys and shit like that, but it wasn't fun when those sirens went off. Was it Albert Einstein, I believe, who was asked what he thought World War III would be like? And his famous reply was, I don't know what World War III will be like. But I do know that World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. This is getting really dark. Somebody ask a cheerful question.
How are you enjoying Cincinnati?
What?
How are you enjoying Cincinnati? That should be a nice lighthearted question.
Cincinnati is very cold. You need to put Cincinnati in Kentucky so it's closer to the airport. Because that really threw me that time.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm in the wrong goddamn state. Dude. Sirens.
The computer overlords heard you talking, Kage.
Yeah. Do y'all know the story of my first year here at this convention?
I was here for it, I know it.
Does anybody not know that story? I got that email from Tack. Tack is a love. I mean, I love the boy like a brother. Meaning I'm going to punch him all. I keyed. Tack sent me the invitation. Uncle Kage, we want you to come to our little convention in Ohio. I said, absolutely. So he said, we'll take care of airfare, we'll take care of hotel, we'll take care of bar tab. I said, make sure you know what you're getting into, boy. So I got on the plane, and I flew out. I landed at Cincinnati. I kept seeing all these welcome to Kentucky. See, when I was in school, Cincinnati was in Ohio. But you know, with shifting borders and all. But then I realized it's, oh, there's the, okay. Now, those of you who have come through Cincinnati Airport know it's not an extensive place. The 20 people who got off the flight quickly got their bags and left. And I was standing there in the baggage claim area, looking for my ride. Now, I am a guest at lots of conventions, but I never like to presume. And that's not my thing. I'm not the kind of guy that says, well, of course you're going to give me this. A lot of conventions maybe don't have the money for these things, and I'm very cognizant of that. So I got out my little smarty phone, and he said, we'll take care of your airfare and your hotel. He didn't say airport transportation. So I said, okay, maybe that was not part of the deal. Okay. So I went to the taxi stand, and they said, where do you want to go? And I said, the convention. And he said, which one? I said, give me a moment. They had a problem with their webpage then. Not a problem. It was a design issue. When I went to the webpage, under hotel, it just said, sorry, the hotel is sold out. It didn't say which hotel was sold out. Nowhere on the webpage did it tell me where the convention was. But doing a little bit of detective work, I was able to find a cached web page with instructions for dealers who wanted to mail their wares. Send it to the Crowley Plaza in Blue Ass, Ohio. There was a typo on the web page. It's funny as all hell. So I went to the taxi lady and I said, I want to go to Blue Ass. And she said, yeah, we hear that a lot. So I got in the taxi, and immediately I got on, is it I-71 or something?
7175, yes.
7175, which has never known a traffic tie-up in all its history. Yeah, we got on there and stopped. And sat. And sat. One little thing about me, and if you're in my story hour, I alluded to this. Nobody gets my phone number. Nobody is allowed to call me. You don't text me, you don't call me. I'm a man of science. I am almost always lost in thought. Because it's very easy to get lost somewhere you've never been before. It's a science joke. So I don't give people my phone number. They can email me. Alkali is an old friend. He has my phone. And I got a text from Alkali that said, dude, where are you? And I said, I'm in Ohio. He said, there's a lot of people here who are frantic, wondering where you are. And I said, there was no one to pick me up at the airport, so I'm in a taxi and I'm on my way to the hotel. By the way, tell them that the hotel name is not on the web page. And a few moments later, I looked back and I said, it's the Crowley Plaza in Blue Ass. I already knew that. Now, something you all may not know about me. It's a personal thing. I was actually born with a birth defect. Whereas most of you were born with a little devil and a little angel, I was born with two devils. And they always say the same thing. And I started typing in, you mean it's not the Hilton Garden Inn in Louisville? And I was gonna send it. Then I thought, somebody might die in the time it would take me to say it's a joke. This kind of strayed from the topic of the panel, didn't it? Let's get back. Any other questions about the topic of the panel?
Well, what about
Hey, Slender Dude, how are you? What's that? In the back, yeah. You have a question? No, he had a question. Did you?
No.
Somebody had a question.
Well, I was kind of wondering about virtual reality and your take on, I mean, there you can be just about anything you want without any question or anything like that, so.
Has anybody either seen the movie or read the book Ready Player One? Yes. We are so close to that. As a matter of fact, in some instances, we're there right now. We used to call Furry virtual reality. It was text-based. We used to call Second Life virtual reality. You ever see, like, your Second Life sex? It's like... We are very, very rapidly approaching actual, proper virtual reality. And I think we're starting to get a little bit of a concern because what happens when people go into the virtual reality and don't want to come out again? There was a movie with Bruce Willis. Help me out. What was that called?
Surrogates?
Surrogates, yes. And it was the same thing. It was a virtual reality. You could create a virtual surrogate and live vicariously through it. Did you notice? Nobody left their house. Okay, anybody not seen the movie Surrogates? I don't want to give spoilers then. But, okay, let's put it this way. When you have a surrogate character, when you are then introduced to the individual behind the surrogate character, is exactly what you think. Okay, that movie itself was a cautionary tale because we had people who literally would not get out of bed. They just spent their entire time in the virtual world. That's not healthy. And we're headed there. Hopefully there will be, I hate to use the word regulation, but hopefully there will be something to attenuate the absolutely incorrigible human desire for a better condition than we are given in nature. I'd like a more full bottle.
Which is honestly why I liked the ending of Ready Player One, because when they...
Did you need to spoil
No,
this?
no,
Yes.
Yeah.
Spoilers. Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Given the going along the same thing with the advancements in the virtual reality, would you be more in favor of the augmented reality, rather? So as a pair, like say as like a visor, and you see how you see other people's characters rather than their actual self.
That is still itself a virtual reality. Yes, we can split hairs. Augmented reality, it is still an imaginary reality.
Right.
I don't see much of a difference. Now, I think that we could fix the problem if in the virtual world we can make sure that everything exists. In the virtual world, there will be bees. In the virtual world, there will be that thumbtack that some asshole left on the ground. Just so it's not too perfect for us. This was always the thing about Star Trek that I thought was a fallacy, because you gave me an hour on the holodeck, I wouldn't come out. And you're going to tell me what's going to be done in an hour? No, screw you, I'm standing. Why? There's a reason. Any other questions?
The holodeck would also never run out of wine. Well, the central
Replicators.
Yeah.
You what?
Replicators.
Yes.
Wine, Riesling, Mosel Valley, thank you very much. Wine, Riesling, Mosel Valley, thank you very much. Wine, Riesling, Mosel Valley, thank you very much. I would just set up a recording of my voice. Wine, Riesling, Mosel Valley, thank you very much. Wine, Riesling, Mosel.
That looks very similar to the workout that you do on the plane.
Oh, yes. You have you
a few
noticed
years
my
back.
right side? I need to start sitting on the right side of the plane so I can work my left arm. Because when you're in first class, it's great because they just keep filling your glass. It's like, you know, wine, thank you, nom, more. Wine, thank you, nom, more. Wine, thank you, nom, more. So now I need to sit on this side of the plane because my left arm is just wine, thank you, nom, more. Yes.
So they haven't actually come up, well, they have actually come out with, or there is a researcher who is coming out with, they couldn't call it synthahol, but they did call it alcosynth. So basically, Star Trek, the wine that, Star Trek alcohol, where pop a little pill and you're sober again.
Why? Actually, okay, that would be an excellent invention. Because if you go to a bar, and you go on a bender, and then you get out in your car, it would be nice to be able to take that pill. Instead of having them take your keys. Not that I know anything about that. I've heard stories. Because when you said So the thing you're referring to is basically an antidote to the toxin.
Yeah, and it's, as near as I can tell from reading the articles, it's not perfect Star Trek synthehol, but it's damn close.
It's probably something we could perfect. We have drugs out there to combat the effects of morphine and its structural analogs, heroin and such. We could do the same thing with ethanol.
It's not alcohol based, it's just, it's, I forget which
Well,
drug it's most like, but.
I would have to look a little bit closer into how exactly this shit works on your brain. When you understand that, you can come up with something to fix it. The only thing is, I'd be sitting there with the pill and I'd be saying, 5 more minutes. I'll take it in 5 minutes. Yes?
Speaking of pills and drugs, and the furry stuff, what if pop a pill and you become your character?
That's a little far in the realm of science fiction.
Thermodynamics.
Okay, we have something today that actually is along those lines. It's called LSD. I'm serious. You can pop a pill and in your mind you become that character. We can do that, but there's no lycanthropic pill. You simply cannot change physical matter that fast. As cool as it was, the special effects in like American Werewolf in London when it's made like that, it just can't happen. For one thing, thermodynamically, there's far too much energy would be required, and also, where's that mass coming from? Now we're getting into physics. I got a D in physics, that's I'm going to stop. Hate it. Oh, here we have a frictionless surface, and there's absolutely no momentum. It's like, the fuck, what? Okay, I got a question. If I am traveling at 60 miles an hour and had too much to drink, when I hit the phone pole, am I going to survive? Well, let's assume your car has no friction, and then no! Real world furries! Sorry, let's get back on the topic. Sorry. You remember how I said I really prefer to do this when I'm sober? This is why. They shouldn't put this after story. They shouldn't put anything after story. After story hour, they should let me go to bed. Yeah.
What is your opinion on more competent genetics? I mean, using them to combat certain issues within humanity that might have side effects that lead to augmentation of the body.
Were you here at the beginning? That's what I started this whole talk with. Genetic editing, genetic engineering, recombinant DNA, it all refers to the same thing. It all refers to going into that long strand of spaghetti with your little microscopic crawfish rabbi going snip, snip. Individual base pairs and replacing them with others. It's really a fascinating thing to me. If you look at your DNA, it basically is 4 molecules strung together in different patterns. There's this long section we used to call the unencoded region because we thought it didn't do anything. Now we're starting to think it does. But that's a different talk. I got a B- in biochemistry. That sort of stuff. I got an A+ in organic chemistry and pharmaceuticals. That's why I'm going to talk. Yeah.
What about nanotechnology?
Nanotechnology, now you're in physics. That's where I got the D. Nanotechnology, you are referring to the idea of using what is essentially an ultra-microscopic robot, a small directed particle that can do things. Yeah, there is a lot of promise in future medicine with that, but it's still in its infant stages. It has a lot of potential applications, but the one thing you're not going to do is instantaneous changes. Again, that is a matter of thermodynamics. For the same reason that if I were to hurl this wine bottle against that wall, I'm not going to. If I were to hurl this wine bottle against that wall, it would take a certain amount of time for it to get there. No matter how hard I hurl it, I can't change that. I can shorten it, but I cannot make this bottle instantly hit that wall. I have a physical barrier. so that any alterations to my body are going to have to be gradual, because if they're not, they're going to be agonizing. You know, for example, I could cause the skin on my arm through very, very careful manipulation over time to pinch it and get a ridge, a flap to form here. I wouldn't want to, but I could. If I tried to do that all at once, it would hurt. It would hurt like mad. As a matter of fact, it kind of hurts now, so I'm going to stop. So, I see what you're asking, but that is forever going to be the realm of science fiction, the quick change, the transformation. Sorry, everybody into TF, I apologize, but there's only so many things we can do. I tell the macro furs, you got the square cube law, give it up. The transformation people know you change instantaneously, it's going to hurt. You know, if you don't believe that, I'll take one of your teeth and yank it out. How's that? See, science is incredibly inconvenient at times. It gets in the way, it spoils our fun. Except when it comes to pyrotechnics. But I'm not allowed to talk about that. On advice of my lawyer. Got a little bit more. Another question. Yes.
All right. So this is still an extremely early tech, but we have reached a point that we do have very small, very low resolution, but holograms. Like just kind of like very basic things like you would find in Star Wars: A New Hope. Do you think that could be possible in the future? Like we could shrink down that tech just like how we do with every other computer?
Absolutely. If you look at what was required to make a hologram when I was your age, it was amazing. Now you can buy the damn little hologram thing for $15 in a souvenir store. Holography could be a viable alternative to the virtual reality. But we're going to run into that same circumstance. Holography is just VR without having to put this thing on your face. It has to be limited in some way because we do not want people to become addicted to the unreal world as much as it would be fun. Which is why I would have holographic bees. I don't like bees. By the way, have you got that idea? I don't like bees. Bees are assholes.
Wasps are worse.
Wasps are the real.
Oh, actually, I'm sorry. When I say bees, I'm thinking of these horrible, evil little stinging Japanese zeros coming at you. Yeah, wasps. I guess it's wasps. Okay, bees are useful. They pollinate flowers and they're social living. Wasps are just dicks.
Yes.
Wasps exist to fuck with people. I'm sorry, was this one of those 15? Oh, shit. No, it is. Sorry.
We started it.
Yeah. Hi, YouTube.
Well, this is one thing I've always wondered about. When we're combining virtual artificial intelligence with our newer Android models, what do you think that's going to do to us?
I will be perfectly frank with you. Artificial intelligence frightens me. Because, in science fiction, the artificial intelligence becomes self-aware. And that's a real possibility. If you are creating something and designing it to think and to reason and to rationalize, at some point you're going to cross that barrier where it starts to think and reason and rationalize and say, why am I working for this asshole? I could be making money somewhere. Pardon. Right now, artificial intelligence is useful, but it is still in the stage that scientists refer to as the annoying stage. Like when the voice lady, comes up, directions to the post office. I found 6 references to Host Awful on Amazon. No, I want the post office! Artificial intelligence, if properly implemented and if properly controlled, can be an amazing tool. But as an older person, there is the downside to technology that bugs me a little bit. When I was a little boy, I was one, when the power went out for 24 hours, it was inconvenient. And when the power came back on, you just picked up where the lights had gone out. Now, the power goes out for 24 hours, holy shit, civilization grinds to a halt. The power grid is like in haywire, communications are down. You know, national security is this and that, and fire departments can't get, it's like, oh, Jesus Christ. Yes, technology is wonderful, but we have to be careful of becoming far too dependent on it. Which is why I worry about us becoming dependent on artificial intelligence. The smart home. I go into the home and say, set the temperature at this, make sure this happens. What happens if that artificial intelligence goes offline? And I don't know how to work the thermostat. I don't know how to change the channel on my TV. You still watch TV? I guess you know. Because that's what we're running into. There's, in fact, the town that I live in, there's a big debate going on right now. We have a volunteer fire company, and they have a siren. When that siren goes off, the volunteer firemen can hear it, and they know, hey, hop to, you know, we got problems. The neighbors don't like it because it's loud. It wakes them up. So they say, we've got cell phones. Why don't we just go to cellular? They said, we don't need the siren. You know, they have a point. In 99% of the circumstances, we're not going to need the siren because a cell phone will suffice. But do they want to be the ones whose house is on fire when the network goes down? Because a siren, if the power is out, a guy goes up there and starts cranking and can make it work. That's how those things work. Real world furries. Yes, back to the topic. Sorry. We're talking fire sirens and there's any other questions? Yes, please.
What if you created a real world furry and you just like took care of it, like you loved it, nurtured it, and made it feel loved, then what would be wrong with that?
Why did you create it?
I guess have a friend.
A friend, a companion, a toy, a plaything? I'll tell you what. Have a child first. Take care of that. Then we'll talk about getting you a puppy. Usually it's the other way around. I want to have a baby. No, here, have a slug. If it doesn't die, you can have a baby. But I understand your question, and that goes back to my original point. Yes, you're going to love and nurture it and everything. What's going to happen if something happens to you? What happens if, you know, heaven forbid, you get in a dreadful accident and you're gone, and now this loved and nurtured creature no longer has your love and nurture and is in an alien world where people hate it. And back to my original point. Any other questions?
I had some that kind of went back to your original point about how you would fight the idea of furry.
Yeah, I got a bottle.
Me and my sister feel the same way about human cloning. Like, I remember in school we had debates about the morality of human cloning, and we can't stand that thought because we feel like they would take clones and make armies out of them and harvest their organs and all this horrible stuff.
It is exactly the same argument. It is precisely the same argument. With genetic engineering, we have the power to alter life. We are at the cusp of playing God, and should. And where do we draw the line? In this civilized area of the world, if I can use that term, we keep that line drawn at least now. There are parts of the world where that line doesn't exist. And that's something we're working with. Hang on, the gentleman back, he's losing the blood.
If you find the question of where do you draw that line interesting, that is actually what I will be covering in the next panel in this room.
Oh, great, yes.
As well.
That leads perfectly into it.
We put them together because they relate.
Okay, just next time, so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would love to talk this one with you.
With the cloning thing, you don't have to make the full person, you just make the parts, don't you?
You can. that technology. If my ear were to be cut off in a dreadful emotional Van Gogh incident, they could take cells from my body in a petri dish and grow a new ear and put it on my head, and it would work. It would be viable. Now we are starting to get into the existential argument. Let's broach that subject. What is life? Where does life begin? I'm not going to tackle that because if I got a Catholic here and a Presbyterian there, they're both going to come at me.
We broached that one in about 25 minutes as well.
You want me to be outside with a stretcher? Yes, sir.
Speaking of genetic stuff, Jurassic Park isn't that far off anymore. Jurassic Park isn't that far off anymore because of, like, they found the genes that are in chickens that were in dinosaurs before. They're starting to...
Chickenosaurus.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, that's very interesting. That's very, very interesting. Because, again, there's so many things about the genome we've learned, so many things we haven't. Okay, let's say, it would be fun. Let us try to bring, for example, Deinonychus back. We will use that. Okay, I now have genetically created a fully formed Deinonychus. And then I discover that the avian flu, when it gets into this creature, mutates into something that is easily transmitted in humans. Easily, very easily, and unstoppably. These are the things we have to worry about besides. Any other questions? Well, if there are no further questions, thank you very much. Make sure you're back. He's gone. Oh, there he is. We shall be right back in this room in 7.5 minutes.
Yes.
Or what's it called?
Furries and transhumanism.
Furries and transhumanism. What he said. Thank you very much. We'll see you then. I have to go get another slushie out of my refrigerator.
Silver Gatoman, he bought me a coffee. Silver Gatoman, here is the song for thee. He likes to video all the panels at the cons. You should go and watch them whether they are short or long. Silver Gatoman, you video that's not a jibe. All of you go to his YouTube channel and like and subscribe.